1. Once upon a time, there were no iPhones, no Wi-Fi. Social media was MySpace, and YouTube was pretty much just a shell of its current self. The internet had just hatched from its egg and needed time to grow into what it is today. But as a kid in the early 2000s, that wasn't helpful when you wanted to play games now. And in school. Because your parents wouldn't let you play them on a weekday and you didn't have a Game Boy. So there I was, bored to death in my 5th grade because I didn't like school much, and that meant on Monday I'd have to wait 5 days to eventually get back to playing Star Wars Battlefront, the better version, not the new trash or Burnout 3. As there was in most elementary schools, we had a computer lab. It was big enough to host one classroom of 40 students, and then some, and had a state-of-the-art Dell computer with Windows XP. For the most part, we were limited to a few educational PC games, Microsoft Office, and the Internet, which was limited by the firewall to just educational sites and Disney Flash games. They did have the Oregon Trail, but I was too stupid at the time to play it more than 10% of the way through without losing my money or anyone dying. The computer lab was accessible before school between 7 and 8:30 a.m., during 2 breaks, breakfast for 20 minutes, lunch for 40 minutes, and after school. The only problem was there was nothing exciting to play. I'd try every game website I knew, but the result was always the same. Miniclip, you cannot access this website. Free online games, you cannot access this website. Newgrounds, you cannot access this website. Okay, fine, Nickelodeon. You cannot access this website. I guess they don't like SpongeBob. One day, my older brother, the computer whiz, finds out how to download Flash games from around the internet onto his local hard drive, which is as simple as taking the cookies from where they're stored onto your computer into an easily accessible location. Now we start building a repository of all our favorite games from the internet, and the only way we can play them, for now, is on the weekends and through the Flash player. No matter, we have a repository, except at that time, I didn't really know what else to do with it. Honestly, I have my older brother to thank for a lot of this, since he was really into computers and the internet, because the next find was really important. Freewebs.com, the free website hosting site. There's only so much a 10-year-old can do with this, but I spent hours designing and playing with the website. I'd substitute game time with free website designing. It wasn't necessarily a video game, so my parents didn't mind me on it. And I found out it wasn't a blocked website at school, so I just keep building websites in my free time. Once a website was finished, I'd build another, continuously improving and upgrading and designing with new combinations. It went on like that for about a week, and I'd have 5 free websites built in that time. And then I found out that you could upload Flash components on a page. Now imagine you're 10 years old, and you just found out that Pandora's box is standing right in front of you, and you can do whatever you want with it. What do? Keep it to yourself? Tell an adult about this newly discovered volatile power? Hide it and make sure nobody else can use it for evil. Close, but not quite. I embedded a healthy variety of Flash games on that page, from the really meaty ones like Drag Racer V3 and the Murloc RPG to some miscellaneous light ones. This was a trial run, after all. I just needed to know if it worked, and if it did, how far I could push it. I did my work, and went to sleep a little early that night, because curiosity got the better of me more than staying up past my bedtime did. That next day, I walked into the computer lab right when it opened up. The only one to walk in, and went straight for the website to the page where I embedded the games. I remember being so anxious about whether or not it would work, and the uncertainty was nagging me ever since the car ride to school. I just needed to know, would I be able to play those games? To put it simply, there wouldn't be a story if they didn't work. The games worked. Not all of them did, but they worked. Drag Racer V3 had a save function, so all I could really do was play arcade mode. Which was fine with me, but just about everything else worked as I expected them to. The problem I did find was space on the website filled up quite quickly, and I told myself that night I would embed more games on other sites I built. I'd focus on games that I could play casually, not lengthy ones like Murloc. Because if I couldn't save, then there was really no point in playing them. By the time I left the computer lab that morning, there were 3 other kids. This trend would continue no matter when I went. I went home that night, fixing everything I could. When I reached my perceived limit, about 20 small games on the main site, I would load more games onto another site. Eventually, I would move to fixing each website so they were separated by categories: action, shooter, racing, etc. But as far as I was concerned, it was a problem for future me. I'd go to sleep early again, be the first and only one in the computer lab, and be one of only a handful of kids that would stay there. That would go on for several weeks. One day, the computer lab was busier than usual, which was fine, because that was 10 kids and I was guaranteed a computer I could sit down and play at. A group of maybe 3 of those kids saw me on my websites, and without asking for a link, just looking at the URL in my browser, they started playing. For now it was just me and those 3 kids, and I really didn't think much of it. I went home that day just thinking about playing another game and switching up the website so I could navigate it easier. I went to sleep and got to the computer lab the next day, the first one there. A little while later, more kids started walking in. Day by day, there were more kids coming in. By the end of the week, it was half full. A week after that, no more than 10 computers were left vacant. Eventually, on the guestbook, because FreeWebs had that to allow you to post comments on the site, I had commenters. Everything from fans of the website saying hi to kids who wanted to play a certain game from a certain site. It became a thing where I would read the request during the day, make a note of what games I could actually add on that website, then download them and replace them later that night. Months later, the websites I built packed that whole computer lab. I even remember a day when I walked in late and there were kids watching each other play when they couldn't get on a computer themselves. I couldn't even find one I could get on, but adolescent me felt a strange sense of accomplishment and pride seeing so many people recognize the work that it took to build something they could all enjoy. Unfortunately, over spring break, the school district also recognized my work and rewarded me with a firewall notification the Monday I returned. I was upset, but looking back on it, I realized that I followed the rules so well that it caught the adults' attention. It was interesting because I wouldn't talk to anyone outside of me playing games on the computer. But I felt like the mastermind sitting in plain sight who was the reason everyone was there. I don't think anyone connected the dots that I was the reason the computer lab was completely packed. And many years later, and to this day, I would become a software engineer. 2. I live in an apartment with very thin walls. I accepted that I will hear noises, and I'm okay with that because that's just what happens when you live in an apartment. My upstairs is the loudest person I know. He comes back to his place late at night with his music in his car blasting, and his assigned space is right in front of my bedroom. It doesn't help that he likes to sit there for 10 minutes with the music blasting before he actually goes in. I hear him vacuuming, doing laundry, and using the dishwasher in the middle of the night. But I just put in earplugs and go back to sleep. My main issue is he likes to keep all his windows open with his TV at high volume at night. It's so loud, it sounds like if I turned on my own TV and blasted it. I am also a college student in an intense program, so I'm constantly studying. I tried using earplugs, but the TV is just so loud. So I asked him if he can turn down his TV because I'm trying to study. And he did the first few times I asked him. However, the issue kept persisting, and I even reminded him on our lease quiet time is from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. At this point, I think he was just annoyed by me and turned his TV on even louder. I tried filing a noise complaint, but honestly, not much came of it. One night when I was studying for finals, I heard his loud, dreadful TV, Again, I went up and asked if he could turn down his TV. He did not. I'm already stressed for this final, and stressed because I couldn't study in this type of environment. I felt like breaking down and crying in that moment, but I really needed that A. Which is where I had the bright idea to connect my lecture I was listening to my speaker and put it on full blast. I stacked chairs on my table, where it would be high enough for the speakers to be pressing on the ceiling. It was so loud I could feel my ceiling vibrate. 10 minutes passed by and I hear my doorbell ring. I opened the door to see my lovely upstairs neighbor. He asked if I could quiet down, which I responded back with, "Sorry, your TV was so loud I couldn't hear my lecture." He huffed and turned on his TV even louder. I went to my car and parked it at a quiet space since everything was closed. I may have lost the battle, but I was going to win this war. On our lease it says marijuana is prohibited on the property, and if they found out a tenant is in possession of weed, they will be evicted. My upstairs neighbor smokes weed every day. The smell doesn't really bother me because I'm a pothead myself. But I just don't smoke tree on the property since I'm paranoid about getting evicted. Also, when I would go up to talk to him, I noticed he had a huge jar of weed behind him. Anyways, the next day I smelled him lighting up. I called the leasing office and said there's a strong odor of what smells like marijuana coming from upstairs. He also smokes on his balcony for everyone to see. I was peeping through my window to see if the property manager was coming by. I see her, see him, smoking, and then I heard her go upstairs and knock on his door. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but I was really hoping she saw his jar of weed. Several days pass, and I see him moving his stuff out. I didn't want to stoop that low, but he pushed me to that point. Now I have a great upstairs neighbor that I have no problems with. 3. If you don't want me to help you, and you want me to break policy, and you try to manipulate me, I'm gonna pull an Uno reverse on you because I happen to have the brain of a bionic raccoon. I once worked at a blue store where we had a very complicated rewards program that near the end of my employment changed the whole system in a very similar but subtly different in a different way, and a new marketing strategy that the customers were not appreciative of. Now, a little fun fact first, I have ASD, so my brain can have the naive logic of a little computer sometimes, and I don't mean to be mean to people until they start hassling me. It's mostly when I tell them that according to policy, rigidity of thought and black and white rules, check, I could not perform the action that they were requesting, so they would inevitably, over the course of the conversation, debate, have a light bulb moment, and think they've just realized a clever way around the policy. For example, retroactively applying rewards points can't be done. Sorry. So they go, "Oh, well, let me return it then." And I can tell by the look on their face that they think they're being sneaky, and boy are they about to one-up this dumb cashier. I know full well what they intend to do, and that turns my well-meaning but strict naivete into malicious compliance. Because that's not a nice thing to do, and I'm nice to nice people, but they're not nice. I'm aware of a subsection of the policy that denies them this as an actual loophole, and I, of course, have all the day's sale prices more or less memorized, because I'm getting no more mental stimulation than that at this job. And I know that when they rebuy it, it'll take days for the rewards to return to their account. And I could tell them that today's sale price is higher than what they bought it for, and due to a quirk in the system, oh boy, when they ask me to re-ring it, it'll ring up as today's higher price automatically, and no sir, I do not have the ability or function in the point of sale to backdate it to the sale price without flagging the transaction in the system and getting me into trouble. I could tell him that, but he hasn't said anything about repurchasing it yet, unaware that I've pattern matched this exact conversation a million times, and he thinks he's going to pull an Uno reverse on me, because I'm obviously thick as a brick wall. So I stay silent the way he is, and when he grins and says, "Okay, I'd like to repurchase these now. Don't forget my rewards points," I smile and go, "Yes, sir, no problem, sir," and re-ring him. Sometimes they do notice the total has gone up, and they begin the frustrated toddler yelling immediately. And sometimes they're so drunk in their perceived victory over this dumb little soft-voiced girl that they swipe their card, go through our complicated rewards and credit card lookup process, because of course they don't have the card with them, which is frustrating because it adds 10 minutes to a transaction, and get their receipt and leave high on their fantastic win, and they don't come back and start yelling and waving arms until they've gotten home and checked their receipt. Oh God, I'm a terror. No wonder my coworkers either loved or hated me. 4. When I was in 8th grade, my PE teacher was mean to me for no reason. I didn't do anything, but for some reason he just targeted me. He would always make comments on how I was doing one of the drills when I had been doing it so much better than 90% of the kids in my class. On one occasion, when we were doing push-ups and most of my class couldn't even do 5 with good form, and without getting tired, I had probably done about 20 when I stopped for a small break in starting position, when he said, "Stop slacking and do some push-ups." The thing that really annoyed me was that most of my class was just doing nothing, and if they were doing push-ups, it was on their knees. I didn't really care at the time, though, and just shrugged it off. A couple of weeks later, he had made many more comments like this, and it just made me resent him more. The last straw was when we were doing some jumping drill, and I tripped over after doing it for a while, and he said, "If that's how well you do this drill, you shouldn't be playing basketball." FYI, I was 5'10" and could touch a 10-foot rim, so it wasn't like my vertical was lacking. For some background, my PE teacher was the coach of our school's first team for basketball. Before this, I didn't really care about basketball, but I just played it because I loved the game and found it fun. But I was much more serious about the other sport I was doing in winter, but this set me off. The previous basketball season, I had only made the Division II side, but I didn't mind because I just played it for some fun. I started to train 3 hours a day on top of going to the gym, and fast forward to a few weeks ago. I'm in grade 10 and I'm 6'2". Tryouts rolled around at this time, and being in the 10th grade made me eligible for the first team. I then played one of the best performances of my life, and my old PE teacher had no choice but to put me on the first team. The assistant coach and I had a great relationship, and also would have definitely wanted me there. Last week, we had our first training, and I walked in with a wide grin across my face as I looked into my PE teacher's embarrassed and annoyed eyes. I've heard it suggested that he was just grilling, and he's pushing me. It's important to note that I was genuinely bad at b-ball before year 9, if he just hated my guts or he knows how to make a good investment. He also didn't talk to me after this very much, as I wasn't in his class anymore, but I don't know. After the first training for the team, I quickly realized I was one of the best players on the team. In our first game, we were playing a club from our city that was known as one of the best in the area. My mum knows the head coach for this team, and he offered me a position to play for them, so I obviously took it. I then went into my PE teacher's office and told him that I quit and I'm not playing for him. When he asked me why, I simply said, "I don't know, I guess I just don't love the game anymore." I saw the annoyance in his face when he went on for a while, admitting how valuable I was to the team, and how much opportunity I would have playing for him in the future. I was about to burst out laughing, but I just left and said, "Sorry, I guess." So the first round was played today, and my PE teacher had no clue that I would be playing against them. The only one that knew was the assistant coach, who actually told me to take the offer to join the team because it's a better team with more space for success. He thought that I had told the coach that I had left to join the new team, so this morning I arrived, saw my old team warming up, and I guess the PE teacher didn't notice me because when I walked onto the court, the look of shock on his face was something that I would always remember. By the way, we won 89-54. 5. I'm working customer support for a casino site, not telling which one for privacy reasons, so I'm used to people being rude and insulting me or my mother. Usually, I don't think much about it. I just insult back the client in my mind or out loud in front of the computer. Doesn't matter, I'm not doing calls so no one can listen, and I think about something else. But 1 week ago, here comes this awful customer. The guy straight up starts the chat by insulting me with a homophobic insult. Never mind, I proceed with my polite and kind speech that I'm here to help. And there the guy is going on a rant for at least 10 minutes. "You're a thief! Give me back my money! You son of a bitch!" and so on. I let him go on, then I'm asking what's wrong because so far it was just 10 minutes of nothing. I didn't know what money the guy was talking about. Deposit? Withdrawal? Winnings maybe? Hell if I know. Then the guy proceeded to tell me that he played hundreds of dollars, lost them all, and wants a refund. So I proceed, as kindly as I can, to tell him that the terms and conditions don't allow refunds of money played by the player. We have special rules if money was used by a third party, or in case the account is hacked, and that I understand it's bad news. I understand the news is not nice, I really do. But I'm not the one who wrote the rules, I'm merely the one who tells them to people. And most people are not even taking the time to read the terms and conditions. I'm basically like a cop giving you a speed ticket. You didn't put the speed limit, but everyone hates him anyway for giving tickets and reminding you of the rules. So when this guy started ranting some more and started insulting my mother, my family, and wishing my death, and even stated he wanted to run over me in his own car, I saw red. I kept my cool, kept being polite and friendly, but the guy continued his BS. Usually we can only ban people having gambling problems or if they demand it. So far the guy hadn't displayed any gambling issues and didn't demand anything. But I'm evil, and so I started planning in my head. I wanted to get rid of this guy, but I knew I couldn't just end the chat, since I already tried that with our offensive language template. Basically an automated answer just telling you that if you're rude and the agent doesn't want to deal with you anymore. But he was coming back every time. So I went for the least reasonable option and started pushing a little, but politely. I was never mean, and I did so on purpose to get an answer that would backfire in his face. At one point he said really bad stuff to me, like so nasty that I cannot even tell it here. Bam! You wanted to really insult me and wish for my death? Well, I proceeded to close the account for absolutely offensive language, told my superior about it, and he applied a 3-year ban for this guy on all the brands of our company. Like, not even just the website I'm working for. I'm satisfied with myself, and some time passes, like an hour, and then the same guy enters the live chat in my software and proceeded to tell me, "I don't understand, why is my account closed and why am I banned?" I started laughing, but like really loud and with a really evil tone. My coworkers looked at me like, "That's it, he's finally lost it." But I managed to answer this ex-client, explaining that management found his language absolutely intolerable and banned him. I explained it to my coworkers, and they found it a bit unethical on my part to have done that, as I didn't have to push a ban on the guy. And it's true, I didn't need to push it, but I wanted to, and it felt great, not gonna lie. And after reading the whole convo, even my coworkers understood my move. I know that losing money is a really stressful moment. I did lose money in my life as well, but in my book it doesn't excuse plain bad behavior and wishing death on people. And as bad as I am to let things slide and not take it personally, I think that sometimes enough is enough. And the fact that the guy had the nerve to write me like that, did not understand why he was banned after telling me so many awful things, just confirmed me in my decision that we were better off without him, and to be honest, I do not understand why we let offensive language slide in customer support chats, when gaming companies ban you for telling one insult in public chat to another player. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 261. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Now, I love it when you guys watch the videos, but YouTube really likes it when you hit the like button, so let's all do YouTube a favor and hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Thank you kindly. Alright, no shoutouts today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, what is your personal cutoff time for neighbours making excessive noise. Hammering, banging, music, loud farting, that sort of thing. For me personally, I don't mind it up until about 9 or 10 p.m. Right? And I say that because there's been occasions where I've had to run the vacuum around at 8 p.m. because I wouldn't have had time otherwise. And I feel like if you're doing it after that, you deserve a kick in the butt. You've all heard my grumbles with, dogs barking and people drilling and hammering and all sorts of things at what I feel are inconvenient hours, but oftentimes it is during the day, so I'm not going to complain too much about it. However, as I generally try to record a little later in the day, sometimes late at night if I really have to, I kind of like people to be quieter by then because it's not like I'm making a lot of noise while I'm recording. Unless you've got your ear to the wall to hear me yelling into the microphone. I mean, maybe they do, I don't know, I can't imagine why they would. But let me know what you think. What's your personal cutoff time for noisy neighbours? It may or may not be earlier than or later than the local noise ordinances. Those can change throughout the year. I know that during Christmas, New Year, that sort of time, they do extend those a bit because people will be letting off fireworks, which I'm also not a big fan of. But that's just me. I'm probably just old and curmudgeonly or something. I'm just old and grumpy and curmudgeonly. Okay, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.